for the first time, Stan and Ollie performed new material live on stage before an adoring public.
And it was an air of unreality. You couldn't believe it was them. You had some sneaking feeling that we'd all pay and go in and they'd show us a film or something. You didn't see people like that. That didn't happen. And on they came, and the ovation was just astonishing. It was probably 3 or 4 minutes, but seemed 15. I mean, the people were cheering and shouting and the affection for them, and they just stood there, tears running down Oliver Hardy's face. He couldn't cope with this emotional welcome they got. I'm so glad I saw them. To see them in real life there in front of you was an amazing experience. No, you were there that night in that audience.
Though ignored by Hollywood, Laurel and Hardy were being discovered by a whole new generation of American fans when their comedies were picked up by the new TV networks. But it was still a surprise to many when in 1950, the duo's resurgent popularity led a European film company to commission a new Laurel and Hardy film.
However, we met Stan just a short time ago, a couple of months ago, as a matter of fact, and we found out that you and he were back together again in some of those wonderful pictures.
Well, we've never been a project.
No, that's true, but you know, a great many of the people out there in the public have thought that you were a project.
Well, that's true, because they've gotten us mixed up with other teams, you see. But Stan and I have been together for 23 years, and we're still friends. I think that's a record.
That is a record.
Atoll K offered much, but eventually proved disastrous.
The film of Atoll K was meant to have been shot in 12 weeks. Now, this was good news, particularly to two comedians who were getting on in years. By 1950, Stan Laurel was approaching his 60th birthday, Oliver Hardy a couple of years younger, so they weren't exactly in the first flush, so they didn't want anything that was going to be too much of a strain. Strain, however, is what they got. 12 weeks became 12 months.
Ollie was the heaviest he'd ever been, while Stan was suffering from diabetes and was so ill for much of the filming that he was unable to exercise the editorial control he so craved.
During all this, Stan Laurel's health started to deteriorate rather badly. He finished up undergoing surgery. They needed to put up a small sort of mini hospital unit on the set with his wife acting as nurse. He looked terrible in the film.
Do that again.
Oh dear, there was Atoll K or something. Oh no, I didn't want to see that. You want to remember people the way you want to remember them at their peak.
Well, here's another nice mess you've gotten me into.
Well, I couldn't help it, you know, and play me big for everything. I never
When it was finally released in 1953, the film was both a critical and a commercial failure, prompting Stan and Ollie to call a final end to their film career. From now on, they restricted their act to occasional TV appearances.
However, yesterday, a bit of film was flown in from Hollywood, which was made by two of our most important members and most active members. It speaks for itself, so allow me to introduce Laurel and Hardy.
Gee, that's swell.
What's that?
It's a letter from the water rats in England.
Oh?
They want us to say hello from all the water rats in America.
Say, that's nice. Who are you going to mention first?
Well, let me think. There's Chick York.
Chick York.
And that was Bobby May.
Bobby May. Oh, what a juggler he was, boy.
And last but not least, Daniel Dolinoff and Freddie Morton. They all send greetings. Goodbye, brother water rats, and our many friends and fans. Good luck, and God bless you all.
We'll never forget you.
That's right, Stanley. We never shall.
Goodbye.
It was to be a poignant farewell to their fans, as it proved to be their last TV appearance. Like Stan's, Ollie's health also began to fail. Diagnosed with a heart condition, he was put on a crash diet, eventually shedding 150 pounds. Despite Ollie's illness, Stan was still hopeful of reviving the Laurel and Hardy name.
Hal Roach Jr., who'd taken over his dad's old studio, invited them to make a new series of colour films for television based on fairy tales, to be known either as The Fables of Laurel and Hardy or Laurel and Hardy's Fabulous Fables.
And Stan had written several initial scripts for them as playing characters out of Mother Goose. Then the dreadful thing happened. Oliver Hardy got a stroke, a devastating one.
Ollie suffered a crippling stroke in September 1956. He battled on for nearly a year before finally succumbing to a series of convulsive strokes. He died on the 7th of August 1957. His body was cremated and his ashes interred at the Garden of Hope at the Valhalla Memorial Park.
Stan is plunged into sorrow on 2 counts. His dear friend and co-worker and co-creator is gone, and the team of Laurel and Hardy is gone forever.
We're at the Oceana Apartments in Santa Monica. This was Stan Laurel's final home. At this apartment, he lived with his wife, Ida, and if you look up on the 2nd floor balcony, this is where Stan would view the beautiful Pacific Ocean.
And he was very happy there because he could watch his beloved sea. And he said, I keep very occupied watching the sea. He said, nothing ever happens, but I like watching the sea.
Stan missed the old days and would spend hours responding in person to letters from adoring fans. He also had time to indulge in a rather odd hobby.
He would go out to a stationery shop and tour it, rather. He would go through every aisle, up and down, looking at all the things, appreciating them, and making little notes to himself. And in one instance, we went to a stationery shop in Santa Monica, and the man behind the counter looked quickly as Stan came in, and his eyes followed him as Stan went around looking in. I said, may I help you? And Stan said, well, I'm just looking at the moment. The fellow was certain he knew who that was. He said, I know you. You are, and Stan said, Oliver Hardy. And the guy said, right. Gee, Mr. Hardy, you and your friend, you and Mr. Laurel, you were so great. I mean, you're still great. I watch your movies all the time. Oh, Mr. Hardy, I can't tell you the laughs that you've given me. And then he paused and he said, by the way, whatever happened to Mr. Laurel? And Stan said very solemnly, he went balmy.
In 1961, Stan received an honorary Oscar for his life's work, even though he'd not made a film for over 10 years.
At that time, he had stopped making movies. And you would think that, well, Hardy is gone, so there's no more Laurel and Hardy, as Stan said. But there he was. He said, I'll go on creating those gags until the day I die, which indeed he did.